And hello there, folks. This is your Uncle Troy. Another C word update, recording from my bed because today is just not a get out of bed day. Been a while since I've had an update, so I thought I would fill you in. For those who aren't keeping track, this is a video blog about my battle with cancer. It's not one of the happy-go-lucky, fun videos that I do, so if that's what you're looking for, feel free to click away. Short recap. Back in spring of 2013, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. Found out that it had spread to my liver, lungs, and a bunch of lymph nodes. The course of treatment was chemotherapy. Pretty nasty stuff. They decided not to attempt to remove the main tumor in my colon because it wasn't blocking anything, and it wasn't immediately life-threatening, but apparently sometimes colon surgery can be. And I'm having my tripod is like way over there, so I'm just trying to do this. You can see the hair pretty much given up on trying to get the hair to lay down. On the bright side, it is coming in darker. It had been almost completely gray, much like my beard. And it started to come in darker. But anyway, so I started having chemotherapy. It started out fairly light, though at the time I thought, my God, this is, terrible. And as the next couple of years unfolded, they kept adding more and more chemo drugs. Only once did they take away a chemo drug, and that was because it was causing my fingers and toes to go numb. In fact, I still don't have all the feeling back in my fingers and my hands and my feet. Basically, it was like every few months go in for a CT scan, find out that the cancer had spread a little more or had retreated a little or was about the same size, and pretty much the same answer every time. Well, we're going to add this new chemical to the chemo mix and see what difference that makes. So things were going along swimmingly, but the chemo had reached the point where at the start I'd get the chemo, I'd feel bad for a few days, I'd start feeling better, and then I'd have a couple or three good days, and then time for more chemo. And as time progressed, the feeling bad was worse, the time I felt bad was worse, and the one or two good days before, right before it was time for more chemo, turned into, I'm too sick to have more chemo, let's put it off for a week, let's put it off for 2 weeks. So, I'm casting a shadow here, bugging me. Feel free just to turn off the video and just listen to the audio if you're interested. And the effect of the chemo was so bad that I actually spoke to some of my family about, I can understand why some people decide to stop the chemo and just let the cancer take over. And I was seriously considering speaking with my doctor about stopping the chemo, or trying some different chemo, or just trying to take out one or two parts of the chemo that maybe was making me feel bad. And then suddenly, without warning, my insurance coverage dropped. I thought it was going to go on for a few more months. Turns out I was wrong about that, and I thought my next insurance coverage, which was coming up, was going to be much sooner. So what I thought was going to happen was that my current insurance was going to last until mid 2015 and was going to end the same month that my new insurance started. And it turns out I was wrong. Actually, the old insurance ended at the start of 2015, and the new insurance is not going to start until the end of 2015. So I've been without insurance for several months. And of course, I didn't find out about this until late February. Late February, I get a letter in the mail saying your insurance Coverage stopped at the start of January, and I'm like, because I've gone through about 3 or 4 chemotherapy treatments since then, a couple of CT scans out at the hospital, and a few other things, only to find out that now they're not covered. And I thought I was covered because, one, I didn't read the letters properly. I mean, I reading comprehension is not great when your brain is under the effect of chemo, and so I was off on when these things were going to happen. But I thought everything was fine because the insurance company was still cashing my checks. And when you're sending over $600, a month, to an insurance company to keep yourself covered, and they cash the checks, you think everything's okay, and it turns out that just their system didn't realize that I didn't have insurance anymore. So the computers that accept the money aren't the same as the computers that process the claims or something like that. So eventually they figured it out and refunded me, my last 3 checks that I wrote them. But realizing that I would be, out of pocket, as they say, for the tens of thousands of dollars for every, chemotherapy treatment, I just stopped going to the doctor, just stopped going to the chemo. I called up and canceled and said, I have insurance problems. I'll contact you when I get them figured out. In the meantime, cancel all my appointments. So basically, without any advance notice or tapering off or anything, I just stopped the chemo. And the chemotherapy started back before I really had any symptoms of the cancer. I had a few symptoms, but basically I still felt pretty good, still felt like a normal human being. And stopping the chemo, I thought, well, I'll go back to what I was before the chemo, feeling good. And that didn't happen. It took, I'm going to say, 2 full months before I stopped feeling sick, I stopped feeling tired, I stopped feeling nauseous every time I ate, whatever. Finally, after like 2 full months, I started feeling more like my old self, but I was still tired all the time. I was still achy. And it took until just a month or so ago for me to actually start getting energy back. My hair started coming in a little darker, and I started actually exercising. In fact, the family's bought a treadmill, and I've actually put some time in on that. Don't tell them, because I've been doing it at night when they're asleep. So because I don't want anybody to encourage me or keep track of what I'm doing. I just when I go up, I just start walking, and I feel tired until I feel tired. Couple of hours walking burns 100 calories or something like that. For those of you that think you can exercise your way into weight loss, I thought the machine must be broken because I walked for an hour and I've burnt like 100 calories. So I look it up, and apparently running full out for a mile burns 100 calories. Cardio workout, going full blast, burns about 100 calories in 15 minutes. So apparently it's a lot harder to burn calories, but of course the whole point wasn't to burn calories. It was just to get out and get some, well, not even get out, just get some exercise. So basically I've been without chemo. I've not really had any symptoms from the cancer, but of course by the time you actually have symptoms, you're usually pretty far gone. So I don't know how the cancer has progressed. Starting next month, in November of 2015, I'll finally be on Medicare from which was, quote, automatic from my disability, which I thought was going to be several months ago, but apparently, I heard them wrong when I made my future plans way back when. And so I have to decide, do I want to go back to the cancer doctor or to a different cancer doctor? Do I want to start the chemo again? Do I want to just get CT scans to see how I've progressed? Don't really know. And I've been using the fact that I don't have insurance yet to as an excuse to not really think about it, to not really make any decisions about my long-term care. Just kind of winging it, and just kind of feeling halfway decent for, feeling, I won't say I feel good. I just, I don't feel bad anymore. And so, I've just been putting off even thinking about the next step, because, I really don't like the idea of going back into chemo again, because that made me feel terrible, and it may have saved my life. It may have extended my life a couple of years, but it I eventually reached the point where it's like, this is keeping me alive, but is this a life worth living? And so it's kind of a trade-off there. I mean, if you get a couple of good days a month, does it really matter if you live another couple of years, when you could have had several, you could have had a few good months in a row? So it's, it's kind of a deep philosophical thing. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? What's the quality of life? It's tough, and it's something I'm trying not to think about, because, like I said, I feel halfway decent. Many days I get up, putter around the house, walk on the treadmill, just generally, do things. And other days I just kind of lay in bed, watch television, and sleep, and miss getting out and doing things. But that's basically where we are. Like I said, no chemo the last several months. Kind of getting back to my old self. But I've got insurance coverage coming up next month, and I need to decide what future treatment and everything I'm going to take. So that's where we are on that. Thanks for all the kind thoughts, prayers, emails, instant messages, pokes on Facebook, that sort of thing. I really appreciate it. They say that it's been scientifically proven that prayer doesn't help people feel better, but just knowing that people are out there that care enough about me to pray for me makes me feel better. I don't care what science says. All right, Uncle Troy signing out. Please have a good night.